Thank you, all of you. It's such a pleasure and an honor to speak with you about the wonderful work you've put into this series. All of you are so transformative. Robert, maybe especially because he's got teeth and I think and hair and everything. How long were you in the chair for that, Robert?
My buddies here asked me that a little bit ago. I think it was 3 hours, but sometimes I think we got to the point where we could do it in about 2 hours. But it was Federico, the makeup artist, that I don't know if these guys had the same makeup artist. He did this sort of like weird point. If you do a close up of my face and some of the other guys' faces as well, it was a lot of in French they would call it a pointillism, but it was extraordinary what they would do. And this great collaboration from the beginning of what about this idea? How about adding that? And then they were like, oh yeah, let's try that. It was amazing, amazing.
I'm curious for you, Rob. Judah, is he more philanderer or more senator? It's hard to tell.
I think in reality he was more senator, more, kind of quote brains of the Confederacy. But in this show, I think to give some contrast, they kind of, you know, built on that notion of, a romantic guy.
Sam, they said in the series, with no wealth, there is no progress. And I feel like Jefferson Davis sort of embodies that as a provisional Confederacy president. And it says you're woefully underprepared for war as well. There's a lot, it seems, on his shoulders, but his sole focus is keeping slavery. What kind of research did you do for this part?
Well, I did, as much as I could in the time that I had, because I was really curious about the Civil War. I mean, I became more and more curious, put it that way, the more I read. And I read a bunch of books and listened to some books, and because I didn't know much about Jefferson Davis at all. And he was a real reluctant participant in the war. When Mississippi seceded, within a month, he said goodbye to the Senate and left. And it was everybody really liked him. And he went to be a planter. He went back to being a farmer and then got pulled in to be the provisional president and then was in that position, throughout the war. But yeah, he did have a lot of pressure. He didn't have as many men as he wanted. All the states, there was no unity. The states were just fighting for themselves. And he was trying to move different. He just wasn't as Ulysses S. Grant just outmaneuvered him and just was a much, you know, much more effective general than him. So, yeah.
Well, we talked about Judah, and he was the first Jewish senator, I believe, to be a part of it. What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I was fascinated by it. I mean, I didn't know his history at all, and then the thing that really took me by surprise was that he was a plantation owner slash slave owner. A couple hundred slaves. And that I hadn't really contemplated that. I guess it wasn't that unusual at the time, but it's such an interesting thing, to see a Jew, who historically were slaves to be a slave owner, and what that meant and the rationalizations for it. I mean, I find rationalization for slavery just fascinating, especially, or racism, especially in modern times. Back then, you could delude yourself because the information wasn't, available, but it's pretty hard now. I mean, you'd have to really be myopic. So I was fascinated by him. All of the aspects of his biography were pretty interesting. There's a lot available about him.
Robert, I think at this point, you playing a villainous role is sort of the embodiment of your career. You're slipping in and out of these roles. Is it easier for you these days to step out of these darker roles?
I don't know that it was ever hard to step out of the roles. I always considered it acting. I do get a chance to play the heroic parts every so often. I'd like to play more of them. And I got to the point where I said, well, I just gotta have to start creating them myself, and I hope that I can get them made because I there was I'm not going to tell you who it was, but this great gentleman, one of the producers, came up to me uh, when they screened all these episodes last year. He came up and he said, "Robert Knepper, you have such heart. I
Hmm.
am going to do everything I can to create a heroic part for you because you have such." And I went, "Oh my God, thank you so much." And look, I get to put my kid through college, so I'm really happy that I'm able to act. It's a really tough market out there these days, and somebody who's acted ever since I was a little kid in children's theater companies and high school plays and crap like that. Not crap like that, but good stuff. It's just as a kid doing it. I hope to do it my whole life, but it's tougher, and sometimes you got to say, okay, this is the part I'm going to play. I'm going to make him the best I can, and he's not ever going to be a hero. He's not going to be a good guy, but I'm not going to think he's not a hero, that he's not a good guy. So I get to play the heroic part in a way, at least in my mind's eye.